Think I'm always better my best friend, my time I play with trust, because I'm ready. Yeah, I'm putting on this right now, I'm sticking in the game. I'm a 7 years ago, I only look to see how now I'm fumbling, my brain is hiding, but I'm on this flesh. I got OCD and PTSD, promises my man, but you will never know. Cause I got in my shirt, bro. All the time I try to shoot myself, I'm digging on my dirt. Gotta help me first, cause I need the next step. Won't put it back, cause I'm a maniac. Gotta wait for me fast. Don't let me crash, I need another stop. Won't put it back, cause I'm a maniac.
I don't do this every time I announce, but two of my favorite people in the entire world, Mr. and Mr.
Late beats, this go crazy.
They hate that I'm doing this, but they are.
Yeah, I know. But I'm trying to make up for the last time. No rush, crush, no deep in all this. You said I feel like that we can't have you around no more. How you think that makes me feel you want to said I feel like that we can't have you around no more. How you think that makes me feel you want to how you feel that you let me in the dirt? Now I understand you got your motives like you wasn't hurt. If I told you how I feel, I wouldn't walk on earth. But I was falling like I'm crazy, wake up in with it. Drugs and I'm addicted to drugs. I hate to fuck on my gun until I throw it up. I'm always forgetting love, where there is passing the blind. It's showing all of my love. I let you down from the fall. I understand it's my fault, but you ain't causing it and they will fix the world. But we can leave it bad. You said you would call me back. I guess you lied to yourself while I was writing you back. Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to make up for the lost time. No rush, no crush, no deep and all this. So like we can't have you around no more. How you think that makes me feel? What's going on? So like we can't have you around no more. How you think that makes me feel? What's going on?
A little bit before deciding.
Everybody put their hands up, put your hands down. Niggas to the motion when I step inside the tree house. I'ma burn the tree down, I'ma let them free down. I'ma step inside the room and smack them and they fucking out. Niggas to the top but I'm dropping them all the time, yeah. Niggas to get stuck that I'm checking them for all the bombs, yeah. Popping from the top, I got fixing up my lines, yeah. Talking all this shit, you get popped up and you can die. Niggas to the ball, we get it, we in the ball. Let them play my soul, so now I'm getting the call. Stupid boats, breathe that isn't told. Get you cold, advice on the pony soul. Up on the show, I'm staggering with the ghost. All for a soul, another go at his throat. What you been told, I'm here to let you know. Not better than ghost, but I'm better than you know. Breaking news. AVG Hoga has stepped into the room. Up for the way you wanna be. Standing on 10 top for them. You have to be me. So when I'm older, but your favorite class policy, philosophy is quality. Teaching that you want to play. I gotta be for qualities. 13 like prodigies. No ideology for company and curiosity. But honestly, accept apologies for all the prophecies. No modesty or sovereignty. Right about equality. You get your hands out with different things. That were about you. That's why you shout about your drama. Be your boys, gather. Get this lockdown and strike up for the pay. If they wanna hide the sell out. Teaching how to sell now. If they can play, they don't survey, got it display, escape when it's just my birthday. Got it debate the domain, no food in the big day. It almost halfway, penetrating gateway. started searching my own way. Now we talking out the college, lot of people. We looking out for bigger drugs, we can do that weapon. Now we can't win it. Now we just go spin out.
But we also got more serious. If you've been to Snowball, you might have done it.
But I double take it rewind. Why you gotta be alive? You play love, I know what you do. Double back on memories. I had to listen that nobody sacrificed themselves to take a step back. People do it to get back. But something that I couldn't see. So now I gotta do the simulations of democracy. What I gotta do? Why you on the side? What make you die? What you make me cry? Leave me in the road with a bad song. Now that always make me on a bad note. Why you wanna make me when it wasn't so my dad I'm gonna break the lies just to my family. Sorry, I'm going back. So I ain't there without them. Can I have my daddy come together in a session with them? What did I tell them? And I fix your broken stairs. Take it to the wounds. Be a broken. But crack just like you know. Give it up on something. I'll be for my sloppy back. You know you heavy in the must. So you can rearrange it every broke. What they gotta do with me? Why you on the side? What make you die? What you make me cry? Oh, yeah, not gotta do with me? Why you on the side? What make you die? What you make me cry? Oh, yeah,
that I made a 5-minute decision to...
Hey, yo, real, you never miss. Someone said to me, you're the one in my head, you're the one I dream about. When I push and toss it back, you can come anything with it. You come to my side, like you play you like a magnet. Why you gotta be the fool now? Why you wanna run away? Why you wanna live in silence? Nothing like this, wanna fuck this. Why you gotta be the fool now? Why you wanna run away? Why you wanna live in silence? Nothing like this, wanna fuck this. Going down so far below, but conscious eyes become so low. In the shadow of death, I can see my soul, but your flame is gone and finally home. There's a fool in my mouth, I don't know why. I don't wanna fuck the girl like takes the damage, it make you cry. I don't know, the freedom lost my tongue. I love you, hold me down. Play it, use my chest. I got issues, I got issues. Why you gotta be a fool now? Why you wanna live? Why you wanna live in silence? But you like this, wanna wait fuck this. Why you gotta be a fool now? Why you wanna live? Why you wanna live in silence? But you like this, wanna wait fuck this. Hey, yo, real, you never miss.
Couch and leans over Arthur's desk. It's late. Oh, go to sleep when are you gonna put
I'll throw it in your head, man. Why can't I hate you? Why won't it go through? This is exhausting.
be evicted? I know. Maybe you should get a real job. Arthur looks at the clock again, 11:59. I just need more time. Can I, in good faith, call myself a writer when all I have to my name are scattered snippets of stories that I'll never finish? Fragments of sprawling epics and tragic tales, projects that I started on a whim and now lay there like heaps of garbage. I dream of character arcs, complex themes, and crushing climaxes and beautiful finales. But as many writers are, I often think of the stories I wish to write and never sit to write them. It is rare to find the time to write now, and even rarer for the motivation to start. When I do write, I think about all the writing cliches, grammatical errors, and repetitive words sprinkled throughout my piece. I think about all the ways I could have described this more, or used better vocabulary here, or I should have been more creative with my metaphors. I look at the writers my own age and marvel at what they've accomplished, and I feel there's no point in continuing to write. Beatrice fought the tears that pricked at the corner of her eyes as she clutched her precious sheet of paper, her handwriting painstakingly scribbled all over the lines, barely legible. Now, red pen marks traced over her words, filling the margins with comments and critiques. What does this mean? Where's your evidence? This paragraph is repetitive and redundant. Did you pay attention in class? But the worst was seeing the large circle D at the top of the sheet, the crown jewel of her feedback. No matter what she did, she couldn't forget the red circle that had been burned into her head. Wet splotches rained over the lined paper, staining the pink ink. She was a horrible, horrible writer. That was the truth, and there was no way around it. Her teacher squatted beside her desk after passing the rest of the papers. Beatrice felt her classmates looking the other way as Mrs. Sullivan quietly asked, "Can you see me after class?" And yet, I write. Despite the wounds caused by scathing critiques, the absence of inspiration, and the struggle against my attention span, I write. It's strange how much a writer can love their craft and yet find writing the most difficult, damned activity in the whole universe. But no matter how hard it is to write, I still love it. I choose to write. I choose to tell stories. My writing is as much of a part of me as it is to be human. So even if I can never finish a book or a poem or a screenplay, I'm a writer with a unique voice and a story to tell. Because if I never write these stories, then who will? Thank you. Next, we have Pranaya.
Hi, I'm Pranaya. I'm a freshman at Fremd, so this is my first Writers Week, but I'd like to give a big shout out to Mr. Anderson's fifth period class, and to all my friends and my sister who came to watch me today. Today I'll be reading a poem that I wrote for something called a shareable draft, which is basically a free write based on a prompt, and our prompt was take a step, take a chance. So this is my poem about taking risks and how they can help us find things we love. As I stand at the edge of the calm, silent beach and contemplate stepping into the ocean before me, the clear waves splash within an arm's reach, and I suddenly feel a pull towards the blue sea. But the water is too deep, too cold and unknown. I take a step forward, then take a step back. I'd rather stay put, safe in my zone, stuck in my dull world of white and black. The glistening tides invite me in, and the mysterious temptation becomes too much. My feet graze the sand, soft and thin, as the ocean and I begin to touch. Since that day, I took a step and took a chance. I started to view the ocean from a different stance. Though my fear of the sea never fully perished, I grew fond to the splash of the cold blue waves. The water soon became something I cherished, and now the caress of the ocean I crave. Through new experiences, we discover who we are, overcome our past and surpass our fear, find new comforts and remember old scars, growing stronger with each passing year. The water now fills all inches of my mind, and with each stalling hour and every fleeting minute, I wonder how I used to be so blind to the beauty of the ocean that has no limit. The dominating currents pull me into a tight embrace, and I bask in the tranquility of my new serene place. Thank you. Next is Maya.
Hi, my name is Maya. I'm a senior in Miss Eng's Creative Comm class. And this is a piece that I wrote for a college application, but it is really about learning to understand and accept the way that you process the world. I don't dream of heaven. When I die, I don't want eternal bliss. How could I possibly receive such indulgence and not become bored? If I get to choose my own afterlife, I want to return to earth, not reborn as a human, but instead as a gust of air. Of course, I might use my invisible existence for some selfish desires. I would float above the front row of a Broadway theater every night or listen to top-secret conversations in the Oval Office if I could. However, if I was totally unnoticeable and incapable of intruding, I would spend most of eternity simply following strangers about their day. Life is most fascinating to me when I can observe other people, finding the beauty in what most dismiss as mundane. It's an instinctual practice of mine that has led me to many unanswerable questions about those I observe. Every week, I go to work at my retail job. Most of my time there is spent folding clothes under fluorescent lights while 90s pop songs hum in the background. Following protocol, I try to look around the store while I'm working, both to address areas that are messy and, well, to scope out who is trying to steal. I wish I could invisibly hover over the back of the store when troublesome customers are stuffing children's pajamas into their purses, hoping I don't notice. I wish I could follow them along the rest of their day, seeing what labels they claim other than thief. Why do they steal? How do they justify doing so? Leading up to the 2020 election, in between school Zoom sessions and socially distanced musical rehearsal, I phone banked for local campaigns. On the chance that a constituent finally picked up and I got to introduce myself, I never knew if I was going to be met with elation or disgust. In one instance where a widowed man rambled on about how much he loved his wife, I simply accepted that some people just need to talk. Other times, people cursed me out or hung up as soon as I said my candidate's name. I wish I could have heard people's private comments in the moments after those phone calls ended. What political issues keep them up at night? What about our life experiences has made us equally passionate about improving our community, but come to opposite conclusions about how to do so? Throughout my 17 years of observation and contemplation, here is what I've determined. Humans are beautiful and complex and terrifying. For a person like me, who can never stop thinking about their influence on others, ordinary interactions can be unbearable. It would be much easier to just float above the world without any physical form. If I was invisible, I wouldn't agonize over being admired. If I was silent, I wouldn't worry about accidentally hurting anyone. One day, in the distant future, my time to rest as a gust of air will come, and it will be glorious. For now, though, I'm trying to create internal peace while I'm still around. I'm learning to accept that there is nothing I can say or do to make 8 billion people like me. Instead, I'm holding space for the messy, imperfect parts of interaction because being seen and heard as my authentic self is more valuable than the false security of anonymity. My uncertainty is simply the result of actively engaging in my life. Thank you. Next up, we have Shreya.
Hi, I'm Shreya, and before I begin, I would love to thank Mrs. Gerber's English class. Thank you guys so much. So today I'm going to be reading to you a fictional narrative I wrote based on the Hindu epic of the Ramayana, and I hope you enjoy. The Song of Rama's Journey. The golden aura of the palace blinded me. I blinked a few times and took in all its glamour. It covered over 200 acres of land, and a courtyard stood flamboyantly smack dab in the middle of it. Its balconies were adorned with the freshest of flowers, and its windows were mosaics that glimmered like sun catchers. Flowers of vibrant hues dotted the gardens. Hummingbirds and bees weaved through the flowers as if putting on a show. Horses ran free in the fields behind the palace. Servants ran in and out of its many entrances, murmuring quick instructions to one another. This palace and all its glory made me feel faint. I took a deep breath in, steadied myself, and marched up to the front door. 2 humongous guards, both about 12 feet tall, towered over me. I craned my neck and gazed at them, and with a flourish of a bow, introduced myself. "Pardon me, sirs, I am here to see the king," I declared, and squared my shoulders. "The king does not meet with impudent children," the elder of the 2 guards said. "Well, you see, I'm from the future with a very important message," I snapped and gave him a dirty look. "Like we would believe that children in the future are so small," the younger guard scoffed. I groaned. These men were impossible. What was I going to do? I sharply turned around and marched down the stairs, but then a voice stopped me. "Don't mind them. If you want to speak with the king, you will be granted that, young lady." "What?" the guard spluttered. The newcomer smiled. "You heard the girl. She wants to meet the king. Let her through." He introduced himself as the younger brother of King Rama, Lakshmana. I opened my mouth, ready to let loose a waterfall of questions. But before I could utter a word, Lakshmana led me through the entrance of the palace. It was bedazzled with the finest jewels that glowed under the sun. I couldn't help but gaze at it until he motioned towards a corridor that took my breath away. In the middle of the hallway were rectangular pools of water that reflected light coming from the gold walls, jewels, and the sun. The hallway had no ceiling. Instead, the sun shone upon it freely. Next, Lakshmana ushered me into a room with thrones. On the largest sat King Rama himself. I managed a wobbly curtsy and introduced myself. The king smiled and asked me the reason for my audience with him. "I want to tell you about my favorite song," I said. The ministers all gawked at me. One turned to the king and said, "You wanted an audience with a little girl who wanted to tell you about her favorite song?" Pandemonium arose in the courtroom as ministers whispered to one another and looked at me in the process. I heard fragments of sentences. "Is the child delusional? Who would want such a thing?" one minister asked. "She could ask for a mansion if she wanted. A song, I tell you," another exclaimed. "Silence," the king said. "She may tell me whatever she wants to." "My favorite song is the Nama Ramayana, and it glorifies you," I managed to say. The king responded with, "I see you have school tomorrow, and I have an assignment for you. Write about the Nama Ramayana so others can know about it too. I give this to you as a royal order, for I know you will execute it perfectly." He waved goodbye and told me to visit again sometime. I closed my eyes and thought of my bedroom, and there I was. The door to my room opened and my mother entered. "Did you finish all your homework, dear?" she asked. "I just have one assignment left," I said, and then I began to work on the assignment. Thank you. Next up, please welcome Priya to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to all my friends in the audience who are here to support me, and also give a shout out to Heritage's College Comm class. Today, I'm going to be presenting a piece about coming to terms with my identity. Hi, my name is Priye. I'm Nigerian. If you don't know what that is, it's only the best country in Africa. But the thing is, though I know that now, I didn't always. I used to hate being African. See, now, being African is cool, but 7, 8, 9 years ago, not quite. Back then, being African was like literally the worst thing you could be. Like, black was at the bottom of the food chain, and right underneath it was African. It was almost like a dirty word. Now, imagine having to deal with plain old racism, the insults, the slurs, the usual, and African-specific racism on top of that. Not fun. I learned firsthand that children can be really cruel. My classmates would ask if we lived in mud huts back in Nigeria, if I had Ebola, if there was water in Nigeria, if I spoke African, etc. I've been asked if there were trees in Nigeria. Ignorant kids, right? Yeah, a 50-year-old woman asked that. Once in a while, though, I'd get something creative like being compared to a gorilla or various apes. This was the majority of my childhood. But then, almost out of nowhere, there was a start of this cultural shift. I personally think the release of Black Panther had something to do with it, but suddenly, African people were like, cool? It was confusing. But by the 2020s, the African wave had hit full force. Nigerian artists were all over the radio, and Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran were collabing with them, which was just the weirdest crossover for me. Nigerian athletes were literally everywhere, and it became a trend to eat Nigerian food on TikTok. Coincidentally, this cultural phenomenon happened at the time where I realized I was actually proud of my heritage. Basically, I finally grew up. After discovering Nigerian creators on social media and making Nigerian friends, I started to question why I let people who barely had culture themselves tell me about mine. So I said, screw that. I finally stopped letting people make me feel as if something was wrong with my culture. Unfortunately, I made a drastic 180 from being embarrassed of being African to then feeling like I wasn't African enough. I always felt out of place at Nigerian parties because I suck at dancing. I was ashamed that I couldn't speak my own language. I don't even know how to braid. Not to mention, I've been told I have what's considered a white girl voice. Quite a few of my Nigerian friends considered me Americanized. Somehow I ended up hating myself even more than before. A vicious cycle, truly. After wallowing in self-pity for a while, I decided to take charge of my own destiny. I started researching my culture and learning more about it. I decided I was going to teach myself my language. It was time to stop letting other people's opinions define me. Now, I'm the semi-well-adjusted person that stands before you. I'm proud to be African. I'm proud to be Nigerian. I'm proud to be American, kind of. And I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me again. Thank you. Next up is Sarah.
Hello, my name is Sarah Anderson, and I'm a senior at Fremd. Shout out to Mrs. Ank's 5th period class. And also to my family and friends who came out to support me. And also thank you to Miss OD for encouraging me to share this piece. So today I'm going to share a children's book that I wrote and illustrated based on my experience with obsessive compulsive disorder. To preface, when I was 4 years old, I began experiencing symptoms of OCD. However, I had no idea what was wrong with me. It worsened, and 6 years later, I was diagnosed with severe OCD. I had gone undiagnosed for so long, and without one, I felt stuck, wondering what was wrong with me and why I felt the way I did. Looking back, a book as simple as this one could have helped me realize my OCD sooner. My hope is that this book can help someone out there who unknowingly has OCD, and I also want to spread awareness on an often misunderstood condition. Despite what you may think, OCD is not perfectionism, even if its symptoms appear to bystanders as perfectionism. So my story is called A Bundle of Knots. Ever since I can remember, I've had this strange feeling. It comes at random times, like when I'm reading or cleaning. Knots and knots, a bundle of knots, tangled up in my tummy, making me feel kind of funny. When I write my name on top of a homework assignment, my A's don't look the same. I can't unsee their misalignment. Knots and knots, a bundle of knots, tangled up in my tummy, making me feel kind of funny. I go to fix it, I erase and rewrite. I erase and rewrite until I feel just right. The knots disappeared. I finally feel free of the grasp that these knots had on me. But then I leave the room. I turn off the light. My body turns back. This doesn't feel right. I just turned off that light. It's clearly not on. So why do I feel like there is something wrong? Knots and knots, a bundle of knots, tangled up in my tummy, making me feel kind of funny. My hand gravitates back to the switch on the wall. I flick it on and off 4 times so I don't worry at all. The knots in my tummy seem to disappear. I'm safe from them for now, but not for long, I fear. I hear my dad call from the kitchen downstairs. Dinner is ready, and I leap in the air. I stop at the sink to wash my hands, but only one pump of soap feels a little bland. Knots and knots, a bundle of knots, tangled up in my tummy, making me feel kind of funny. So I pump and pump, I pump and I pump, but 4 pumps of soap still doesn't feel like enough. 16 should do the trick. It's 4 times, so I use 16 pumps of soap, and I finally feel fine. As the years pass by, I carry on with my life, repeating all of my actions multiple times. My actions, they start to affect not only me, but also everything and everyone that I see. My reading slows dramatically, my teachers can't read my writing anymore, my parents pry me from the wall before I break a light switch, and my sisters learn to look away and ignore. What is wrong with me, I think to myself? Why can't I do things normally without adding anything else? I question myself like this for years and years, but my repetitions keep worsening. I burst into tears. No one knew what to do, so my mom sat me down to show me some research that she had found. Signs your child is suffering from OCD, the article's title read. We went through all the symptoms, and everything finally made sense. Over the years, I've gone through therapy and treatment. I've realized I'm not normal, I just have an anxiety condition. I'm extremely grateful for all the support, and I'm happy to say OCD doesn't control my life anymore. Thank you.
Hi, once again, I'm Shreya, and I have a couple of poems I would love to share with you guys. The first one is called A Battle for the Sky, and it's a Villanelle poem, meaning that it follows an ABA rhyme scheme, and certain lines are repeated throughout. I hope you enjoy. A battle for the sky. Darkness always devours the sky at night. The whole world falls into a deep slumber. The sun and moon battle for the spotlight. In the dark sky, stars shimmer and shine white. People begin to count sheep by number. Darkness always devours the sky at night. People gaze upward at the sky so bright. Their eyes reflect a hue of burnt umber. The sun and moon battle for the spotlight. Behold your eyes to such a divine sight, before darkness shall rout every cumber. Darkness always devours the sky at night. Darkness says, the sky is my one birthright. Protest by barking is from a clumber. The sun and moon battle for the spotlight. Where darkness manifests, light starts to fight. Darkness is what light shall disencumber. Darkness always devours the sky at night. The sun and moon battle for the spotlight. Thank you. My second poem is called The Wind Told the Tree, and it's based off a poem by Amin Rihani called The Fruits of Death. And I took the last line of that poem and incorporated it into mine, so I hope you enjoy. The wind told the tree to run and hide. The tree, however, did not waver. Soon a tide comes to wash you aside, the wind cried. The tree responded with, "Oh wind, you are not doing me a favor." The wind inquired, "What in the world do you mean?" Declared the tree, "I have no fear, for the world I have already seen." The wind exclaimed, "How so? The world is not near." "I've heard tales from the birds," spoke the tree. Then the fruits on the tree, their interest piqued, noted, "We have also heard tales from far and wide." The wind, still not convinced, replied, "I have traveled across each and every sea, but you have not left your place, O tree." The tree asserted, "I have seen the good and the bad of the world, and therefore have no reason to hide." The wind queried, "I still don't understand. Your roots bind you to the earth. You never have, nor will you ever be free." This time, the fruits remarked, "Don't you see? We are the fruits of death upon life's tree." Thank you. And my final poem is about the uncertainty of the future, for I know that's something everybody worries about, and it's called Where Shall I Go? Where shall I go? East of the sun and west of the moon, they tell me to go. But is that the right way is what I want to know. If I take that path, will I come across an elegant doe? Or will I see an unwanted foe? Which way should I go? They tell me the future depends on every stepping stone, but is it worth going into an unfamiliar zone for something like a throne? Is the future something I could one day postpone? Can the future for my past mistakes allow me to atone? Do I have to place my foot on every single stepping stone? Will the future surrender to me? Will it release the shackles preventing me from being free? Will it bring me infinite glee? Or is doom all it can foresee? But maybe, just maybe, the future is a key, for I will never know what it will be unless I choose to embrace lock and key in order to see what the future has in store for me. The wise say, enjoy the present before it will flee. And now I see I'm starting to agree. For the future is no guarantee, but the present was made just for me. Thank you.
This is a poem I wrote about Cherokees and how they were taken from their homes. This is called Trail of Tears. I hear the cries of my brothers and sisters getting handcuffed as if we're all criminal. The soldiers just follow orders blindly, not one of them feeling pitiful. I can smell the sweat as we walk miles and miles like we're running a never-ending marathon. They showed up at early morning and took us away by dawn. I can feel the tears stream down my face like a waterfall surpassing the barrier of rocks. I'm trying to stay strong for my family as we continue this difficult walk. The inches turn to yards, and soon yards turn to miles. On my left, someone drops. No one seems to care. Just another man down, another burden to bear. I watch the sun come down as we continue traveling to our new unwanted home. Today I can see the faint outline of buildings as the soldiers start to roam. Inside, I feel like I want to give up and fall into an endless sleep. I'm sure the others feel the same, as behind me I can hear them weep. I want to stop, but I continue to walk as if I'm in a trance. I wonder and wonder again why we weren't even given a chance. It's our tribe's old land, of course we want to keep it, so how did they just expect us to walk away and leave it? Once we arrived at our so-called homes, we realized it's just a jail. At this point, though, I'm just glad to be off that dreaded trail. We were forced against our will. It truly isn't fair, but there is nothing we can do. Of that I am aware.
One more round of applause for this incredibly talented group. I hope you sit there and realize that you walk the hall with some amazingly talented, creative people. It's pretty incredible, Fremd. Do we have any questions up in the crowd? We got a couple minutes left. I know y'all are trying to get out of here real quick, but you can't really go anywhere. So what do you got? Middle? Gabe, what you got, buddy? I think you're asking, do they have to think about their words in order to make them rhyme? In terms of making the words interesting and fun, how do you do that? How do you come up with the words? Anybody want to answer that?
I do either, like, I can do near rhymes, so it's easier to use different words, and I also use word hippo because it's really helpful.
Good answer. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
So amazing. You all crushed it. We're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So freaking good. Amazing. Really, really well done.